The 80s had The General. The 90s had John Gilligan. In the noughties, it was the reign of Martin Marlowe Hyland. His was a familiar path with success and power, and then the recklessness. He had to go, because with him, an innocent young man doing an honest day's work died. Crime World presents Caught in the Crossfire, the unsolved murders of coke kingpin Marlowe Hyland and innocent Anthony Campbell. Available now on all podcast platforms.
Okay, Eamon, so it won't be the worst crime that we ever discuss on Crime World, but it certainly does strike you as, and I think the judge described it as a sort of a crime of utter greed. We have two Irish people originally from Mayo convicted of so-called dine and dash offences in Wales this week, who you've written about before.
Yeah, I mean, this couple, Bernard and Anne McDonough, they really, I suppose, went viral in the wrong sense of the word last month. They walked out of a restaurant in Port Talbot in South Wales, and the restaurant owner was distraught. £329 sterling. He couldn't afford to lose it, a small business, and he put it up on social media saying, look, can anyone know who these are? I would like them to come back and pay for it. And 12 million people ended up viewing the video, and 6 or 7 other restaurateurs and other, I think, retail outlets all came forward. They were basically said the same thing had happened, same modus operandi, and they were very quickly identified. And I think the South Wales police, it didn't take them too long to roll them up and bring charges against them.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a dine and dash. I have to say, I've never heard of it before. I have heard of people doing it, but never. But of course, it went really, really crazy online, as you said, and it was also in papers all over the UK as well. But then, interestingly, when we did look into it, we found out that Bernard is the son of, like, a genuine, I suppose, TikTok legend back in Ballyhaunis.
Yes, we discovered that the dine and dash thief Bernard McDonough is heir to the king of Ballyhaunis, or Ballyhaunis as his father, the Foal McDonough, refers to it as, also called Bernard. I mean, the Foal has put out this, I suppose, this whole body of work, this entire oeuvre of content on TikTok that can be best described as eccentric, where he comes on and has his own specific kind of style of delivery and kind of has the crack, to be fair, like, you know, has pulled pints and drank them straight away in a pub, claiming to have just bought it, much to the delight of the bar staff and other patrons. There was one video which featured his son Bernard, his eldest son, the man at the centre of this, I suppose, media storm in the UK. And they're shaking hands in the square in Ballyhaunis beside the sculpture of the two men in the market square. This is the kind of the statue of two men standing over a pig, spitting on the hands, shaking hands, having done a deal. And he's there explaining to the viewers that when he passes away, whenever that might be, that this is going to be the new king of Ballyhaunis. And he introduced his son, and the two of them shake hands and raise their hands in triumph. And that's, that it kind of gives it, I suppose, a taste of the content, what the Foal is, what the Foal gets up to.
I don't know if it'll make sense unless you actually have seen it, like, because it is a funny phenomenon. There's probably maybe, I don't know, 20 people in Ireland that are really famous on TikTok, for various reasons. And one of them is this guy, the Foal, and he's basically dresses up a lot of the time in Mayo gear, and it's just a quirky phenomenon of modern life. And then obviously he has nothing to do with any of these crimes, the father, the Foal, but it's just, I suppose, ironic that his son becomes a viral sensation for a totally different thing. Now, this week the cases came to court. They both received, both Anne and Bernard received prison sentences. What were they given?
Yeah, well, Anne got the sterner version of justice handed out to her. She got 12 months. But she was, as well as, I think there was the €1,000 left behind, in terms of unpaid bills in the restaurants. And it would appear to her, she was the person that was kind of, would go last. The rest of the kids and the husband would have left the restaurant, and the modus operandi would be to use a bank card that would be declined deliberately. Yeah. They knew well it was going to be declined, and then she'd say, just a second, I'm going to nip out to the car, get a different card, and I'll come back and we'll settle the bill, and of course would disappear, never to be seen again. She was also caught over, I think, £500 sterling of stolen designer gear, including 2 from Tommy Hilfiger. and that was about 500 quid. But there was a long list of kind of fraud and theft convictions for both of them read out in court, and Anne had the greater number in that sense. Now, so that's why she got 12 months. Her husband Bernard got 8 months for his part, and it said that they'll serve about half that sentence, and they were also ordered then to pay back the £2,200 in term, for the bill for the restaurants and for the clothes that were stolen as well. So that was part of their sentencing.
And the judge gave them we had harsh words for them, I think it's fair to say, even in regarding the kids, because she would go to supposedly get this money, but the children would be left there, and the judge had kind of harsh words for that, basically describing it as cynical and exploitative, really, of the children, because obviously the restaurant owner would see the kids there and be of the belief that the parents were likely to come back.
Yeah, I think Judge Paul Thomas went to town on them. Like, he was talking about the pure and utter greed, and it was carefully planned to a specific pattern. And it was ruthlessly exploitative was how he described it. I mean, you kind of have to wonder a little bit about why this took off the way it did. I mean, the police even released a video of their arrests today, as well as the mugshots yesterday. And normally it's the kind of stuff you see, the Spanish police, release videos of their SWAT teams going in to pick up members of the Kinahan cartel in hotels room. But here we have, Bernard and Anne being, the door being knocked on and them politely going out the door, haven't had their rights explained to them, and all of that was released. I mean, even the video a couple of weeks ago when they first turned up to court, I mean, they did actually run a full gauntlet of the media, and they were getting, the full Sunday World doorstep treatments, from a number of people as they went in for what, is a nasty nuisance crime, in fairness. And I mean, and if you're a small business person and somebody ups and leaves, it wipes out your profits, certainly for that day, if not for the week, depending on the size of your business. And they went to town, they were ordering double desserts and T-bone steaks. And I think there's decent wine in at least one restaurant, I think was mentioned as well.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it strikes, of course, as I said, there are greater crimes, but there's something I think that struck the public as being particularly unfair, because I suppose because these restaurants, everybody has a sense that restaurants, they don't have big margins, and it seems it's not a victimless crime. I suppose people would maybe have less sympathy for the owner of a department store or something like that.
And I think these particular restaurants as well. I mean, certainly the guy who put out the original video that went viral, it was a family-run Italian restaurant. It was literally run by himself, and I think he talked about the money taken for, the £329 that was left unpaid was basically taken from his grandparents and from his parents and from his children. And, it's the same as taking it from his wallet. I mean, it is a small business. So, I mean, it kind of resonated, I think, with people in the UK that, these were people at the bottom of the business food chain. They weren't a big corporate that could absorb their losses, because they have dozens of these restaurants all over the country, so that, okay, if there's a little bit of theft in one, the profit in the others will make up for that. This is just an ordinary person running a small business. So I think that's why it kind of kicked in. And that's why there was so much interest about it as well, I think, And
I think it was described as pure and utter greed. I mean, it's hard to make the case that, I was starving and I couldn't afford food when you're tucking into T-bone steaks as well, is it?
Yeah, there was that. I mean, the judge, the same judge, he described her as a fluent and a practiced liar. And you'd obviously coach the kids to in advance to run away at a certain time. And that the thefts, had a devastating impact on the local family-run restaurants. Now, and another aspect then as well, it emerged in court then that she had lied about being pregnant when she was originally arrested and in custody, so that she could get out. So all of that would have gone against her in the sentencing. Now, it did say, her lawyer did give some kind of mitigation, saying that, she had recently suffered a bereavement in the family. And that, and that this kind of eating in this way was, an attempt at trying to make herself feel better, and the thefts as well. And, and again, I think the lawyer on Bernard's behalf then as well mentioned he was deeply ashamed, father of six, who regretted his actions at this stage, But it's quite how'd you say it? I don't know. I don't know if it's an overreaction, but they were certainly made an example of. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you consider I mean, as I said, we have it up on the website. The police released this footage. Is it body cam footage?
Yeah, it looks like it. Yeah, no, it looks like it's at that level, all right. Yeah.
So
yeah.
I mean, typically the body cam footage we would have seen it in Spain when Liam Byrne, I think, was arrested, where the police, they obviously recorded for various reasons. But in the guards now do have some body cam footage, or they do take images of it, but it would never be released in Ireland. I mean, that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
That never makes its way into the public. But the UK police, for very high profile crimes, in the aftermath of a conviction, do release it, and it tends to be sort of organised criminals or something of a particular big nature.
Well, I mean, even before he was convicted, I think there was the footage of Bomber Kavanagh when he was being arrested in Heathrow Airport, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Or one of the airports anyway. Yeah. And he was sitting in the chair kind of looking a bit confused. And, as they were going about their business, getting their paperwork straight. And the Dead Zoo gang as well, that time when they were raided in, I forget what part of the UK it was now, but that was part of the whole... I think a £56 million museum heist, and that was released at the time before they were charged. Now they blacked out they pixelated the faces and all the rest, but they were keen to show that there was movement going on, and I guess it was the same with Bomber Kavanagh. And so I suppose Bernard and Anne, really did get the drug dealer treatment to some extent.
Yeah. And not to state the obvious, they're certainly not.
They're not drug dealers
or international.
No, they're not. No, absolutely not. And there is, and in fairness, there was evidence that we found ourselves about the family having suffered a bereavement. The full McDonough's wife recently passed away, and they erected a very spectacular memorial in the graveyard in Ballyhaunis. And I think the Foal had mentioned it in some of his TikTok content, and he'd gone back. There was one where he had gone back to South Wales to say, look, this is where he used to come when the kids were young, presumably Bernard among them at the time, hence he's still in South Wales. And he was looking at this area beside what it looked like a community centre and a couple of picnic tables, and said they'd come here and have their dinner. And he mentions as well that he lives in Kent himself now. So I mean, they're strongly connected with Ballyhaunis. That's where his wife Rose is buried. And from speaking to people who know the family, he's deeply, he's in grief. The Foal is, and again, what we might consider an extravagant sort of memorial was actually. It was that grief playing out, and it's it's their way, it's his way, I suppose, of paying respects to his wife Rose, the Queen, as he calls her on.
Yeah, and he's a much loved character, really, in Ballyhaunis and beyond. There's no doubt about that. Well, they've got their just desserts, Eamon.
Are you waiting all day for that one?
Well, I don't know. Somebody had to say it.
Are you going to say now they're doing porridge?
Well, that might be in the intro, Eamon. I'm going to rock that and put it in the intro.
Anyway, well done. Well done for not blurting out that pun earlier. And I'm glad I didn't run over your carefully delivered one-liner.
Thank you, Eamon. You couldn't have matched it. Thanks very much.
That was always a pleasure, now.
I'm Nicola Tallant, and you're watching Crime World, a podcast about criminals, drugs and the underworld in Ireland and across the globe. Make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you can be the first to watch all our latest episodes. You can also listen wherever you get your podcasts.